mission is complete, but Nathan's is not.
It does not take an expert in pattern recognition to call out the X-Men for their love of time-traveling shenanigans. I mean, just look at the comics. If you take a detour to the Days of the Future Past storyline from 1981, you will see how the sci-fi concept of temporal displacement and alternate timelines was first integrated into the stories before they became a mainstay within the franchise. Of course, the latest X-Men 97 has been no exception, with scattering our favorite mutant across different timelines as the team had to split up after being transported to the distant future and the ancient past by an unknown force. Now, both points of this past and future seem to be bookmarks of Apocalypse Live, and in lieu of that, we saw things getting complicated with Summers' Grave family again. After Jean, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Morph land in 3960 AD, they meet a younger version of their son, Nathan Summers, in this desolate landscape. The mutant then join a group of rebels called Askani, and that is how the show introduced us to Mother Askani, who is not just the hooded leader of the clan, but also one of the most mysterious characters in X-Men 97. While the series did drop us a few hints during the season premiere, her identity and purpose in the multiverse was kept under the wraps. Many do not know this, but Mother Askani is one of the famous aliases used by Rachel Summers, the daughter of Jean and Scott, from another alternative timeline. That makes her an Omega-level mutant who wields the Phoenix Force, and as exciting as it may sound, the show will probably wait till they reveal more about her abilities. But if you are an impatient X-Men enthusiast, you know that all answers takes us back to the OG comics. So keeping that in mind, let's discuss the psychological abilities of Rachel Summers, aka Mother Askani.
You may call me Mother Askani, leader of Clan Askani.
Who exactly is Rachel Summers? So, the extensive comic lore history of Rachel Summers dates back to the Days of the Future Past storyline in 1981, and naturally, that is interwoven with the latest X-Men 97 sequel and the OG X-Men, the animated series. Now, Rachel was first introduced by artist John Byrne and writer Chris Claremont in the Uncanny X-Men issue number 141. Instead of coming from the sacred timeline of Earth 616, Rachel is from alternate version of it on Earth 811, which was the main setting for the Days of the Future Past event. In this world, the mutants are either enslaved in camps that are controlled by power inhibitors or are being killed by the Sentinels after Senator Robert Kelly was assassinated by the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, thus stoking the flames of anti-mutant propaganda and turning it into law. Now, instead of having a son named Cable, the Jean Grey and Scott Summers from this reality had a daughter named Rachel, whose powers are heavily influenced by her mother's. Even if they are not identical, Rachel inherited Jean's telekinesis and telepathy, while also developing a growing range of psionic abilities and rather empathetic tendencies. Since the Jean from this Earth was fully merged with Phoenix Force, Rachel has an instinctive affinity with that cosmic entity. This connection really helped her after her parents were killed in the battle and all the government-led soldiers had destroyed the only home she knew, which is the Savior's School of Gifted Youngsters. After a government-mandated mutant hunter named Rory Campbell kidnapped Rachel, who was one of the mentioned massacre's last few survivors, he subjected her to the absolute revolting physical and psychological, which was part of his Hound program. Campbell basically brainwashed all these especially gifted mutants into following his commands, which included discovering mutant hideouts, just like how a bloodhound tracks a scent. Well, that is how the program got its name. Anyway, Rachel had become Campbell's most prized hound after her extensive behavior modification, as he was forced to use her psionic powers to shut down other mutants for the authorities. Her face was also branded with a grotesque and irremovable patterns of tattoos to mark her, as she was restrained with a leash by her captors. As a hound, Rachel occasionally located mutants herself, which often included the people she loved in her previous existence, and then led them to their death or maybe worse fates. Rachel was plagued with the shame and grief of what she was being forced to do, and her anguish for the death of her parents and friends almost scared her soul. So she weaponized this pain and used it to overcome all the brainwashing that Rory put her through. In fact, she violently rebelled by attacking him and leaving a permanent scar on his face. But even then, she was still an erratic hound who lost contact with Rory during a mission that included an entire cadre of sentinels. Now, Rachel's freedom from Rory control was part of the carefully planned mission that was carried out by a secret splinter faction of the X-Men led by her godfather, Nightcrawler. The team used Gateway's teleportation powers to bring Rachel to Cooderman's Creek in the Australian outback, where she was kept in isolation while they worked to undo the conditioning that had turned her into a mindless hound. It was Kid Stark who used advanced technology to remove the robotic nanites embedded in her body that conditioned her into being a brainless tracker assassin, while Sage and Bloody Bess provided psychic support. In the end, it was the Phoenix Force that finally shattered the brainwashing, thus allowing Rachel to reclaim her mind and her identity. Once she was free of this influence, Rachel made an incredibly difficult choice because instead of staying safely with the X-Men, she deliberately allowed herself to be captured again so she could infiltrate Rory's forces from the inside and play a crucial role in resisting the Sentinel rule. But this time everything was different because Rory could no longer control her mind, and although she returned to his custody, Rachel was no longer his obedient hound. She remained herself, secretly working against the very man who believed he still owned her. However, eventually, Rachel freed herself again to join the surviving X-Men, including Wolverine and Kitty Pryde.
We Askani have a saying, thanks for today, please for tomorrow.
How did Rachel Summers become Mother Askani? So, in X-Men issue 141, after being placed in the South Bronx containment facility, Rachel became romantically involved with Franklin Richards after joining the surviving X-Men. She also built a close relationship with Kitty Pryde, who almost became a mother to her. During this time, the team was being led by Magneto, who planned to end the reign of the Sentinels by altering history itself. Once Wolverine helped them sneak inside the Sentinel prison camp, the X-Men managed to disable the power-neutralizing restraint that kept them helpless. And once the shackles were deactivated, Rachel was finally able to use her telepathic abilities. After realizing how this was their only chance to change history, she projected Kitty Pryde's consciousness back through time by sending her mind into the body of her younger self just before Senator Robert Kelly's assassination. The mission was simple, but incredibly high stakes, as it involved stopping Kelly's murder before it happened. If they could prevent that single event, they hoped to break the chain reaction that led to the Sentinel takeover and the dark future they were trapped in. However, despite Pryde being successful in the past, the X-Men were destroyed by the Sentinels in the future, and Rachel was the only survivor as she was hiding from the attackers in order to protect Pryde's body. After returning Pryde's psyche, Rachel then sent her own spirit into the past in order to investigate why their efforts did not alter their dystopian reality. That is how she learned that the past consisted of a different reality, running in an alternative timeline. This stunt of hers further caught the attention of the Phoenix Force, who had been linked to Jean Grey in the past. As it was attracted to Grey's child, a portion of the Phoenix Force were then infused into Rachel and arrived in the future. As Rachel was unconscious following the whole ordeal, Pryde privately requested the Phoenix to give a fresh start for her friend. Following this, Pryde and Rachel then planned a last strike against the Sentinels in the hope of stopping the regime from executing Project Nimrod, which was the creation of the ultimate anti-mutant murdering machine. Pryde understood that this mission was inherently suicidal, so she interrupted it by giving a command that saved Rachel by sending her back in time with the help of the Phoenix Force. Of course, Rachel had no clue of it, so she just physically vanished by crossing the time stream and arriving years in the past, to a world she did not fully recognize. Now that the Phoenix agrees to merge with Rachel and transported her to the 616 timeline, effectively giving her a new life after so much heartbreak and abuse, Rachel was heartbroken when she realized that she did not even exist in this universe. so she simply concealed her identity from her sort-of parents and joined the X-Men before adopting her mother's Marvel Girl code name to honor Jean's memory and physically bonding with her brother, Cable. When the X-Men seemingly died in the fall of the Mutants run, Rachel co-founded the Excalibur team to follow in their footsteps. Now, something after this during the X-Men Phoenix storyline, written by John Francis Moore and artist Pascal Alex, the time stream ended up splitting Rachel into two identical versions of herself. While Cable rescued one from her captivity at the end of time, the other was flung into the dystopian future of the 37th century, or Earth 4935. Here, Rachel discovered that Apocalypse had finally won a century ago and has ruled the world with a dictator's fist ever since. Even if she was left without any other way to survive, Rachel was still motivated by her morality. And after a failed attempt to kill Apocalypse, she took the name Mother Askani and created Clan Askani as a resistance group that opposed Apocalypse's reign. Because of her rebellious group was religious in nature, Clan Askani revered the X-Men as gods and held to their virtuous beliefs. Mother Askani recruited telepathic mutants like Blake Smith and the prophetic Order of Witnesses. With a near-religious regard for Charles Xavier, the Askani brought his philosophy of peace into their fallen world and developed a form of meditation that involved floating upside down. Now, the Askani name was directly translated to the family of outsiders, and their skills included combat, psychic abilities, and a private language. All this occurred under Rachel's painstaking eye, as she was the woman well over 100 years old, but was being kept alive by the Phoenix Force and backed by a powerful army preparing for the arrival of their ordained rescuer, who, as we know, happens to be Cable. Apparently, the Askani believe on the prophesied Askani's son, or Dayspring, who was a warrior destined to defeat Apocalypse, and in the 12th, a group of modern mutants who were key to the ancient mutants' rise. Fueled by the dream of the past, the Askani believe in accepting fate and protecting the timeline, even from the time travelers who wanted to change history for the better. Eventually, it was one of the Askani sisters who traveled to the past and rescued a newborn Nathan to bring him to the future in hope of curing his techno-organic virus. Following this, Clan Askani had fully devoted themselves to raising their future leader, while Rachel dutifully fulfilled her age-old promise to protect her little brother. But then, when Apocalypse minion attacked the Askani, Rachel was severely wounded in the process. As depicted in Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix by author Scott Lobdell and artist Jean Ha, a desperate Rachel then pulled Scott Summers and Jean Grey into the future for Nathan's sake. In the comic, we see that eventually, after being in a coma for a long time, Mother Askani passes away from her injuries. But her astral form uses the power of the Phoenix Force to continue watching over Nathan. Mother Askani has Omega-level telepathy. As the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey, Mother Askani was one of the most powerful psychics in X-Men history, especially because she inherited virtually limitless telepathy and telekinesis abilities. Unlike most telepaths, Mother Askani combined Rachel's already immense mutant gifts with her centuries' worth of knowledge, time travel expertise, and a deep connection to the Phoenix Force. By the time she becomes Mother Askani, she was as much a temporal guardian as she was a telepath, thus guiding history from behind the scenes in order to ensure that Apocalypse can eventually be defeated. She is considered to be a unique mutant across the different realities and timelines in the multiverse because of her extreme stability as a time traveler. Mother Askani's greatest power is her telepathy. Rachel inherited Jean Grey's psychic potential, making her one of the strongest telepaths in Marvel's history. As Mother Askani, she can read minds across vast distances, communicate mentally with multiple people simultaneously, create detailed psychic illusion, erase or restore memories, and engage in devastating psychic combat. She can even enter another person's mind to perform what is essentially known as psychic surgery, as it includes repairing mental damage or removing foreign influences. Her telepathy can be used across timelines, reaching different points in the past and in the future. This allows her to chronoskim by probing into mental events from other time periods and universes. Mother Askani can also manipulate entire battlefield, and rather than simply reading thoughts, she can actually coordinate armies, share tactical information instantly, shield allies from psychic attacks, and also detect hidden enemies. The members of the Askani clan themselves develop many of their psychic techniques from Rachel's teaching, which means that her abilities become the foundation of an entire civilization's culture. Like I previously discussed, one of the earliest demonstrations of Rachel's telepathy came during Days of Future Past when she was trapped in a future ruled by Sentinels and had projected Kitty's pride consciousness decades into the past. This wasn't simply telepathy. It involves maintaining a psychic connection across time itself, allowing Kitty's future memories to inhabit her younger body. In fact, preventing Senator Kelly's assassination was only possible because Rachel's mind was powerful enough to bridge different eras. Moreover, even in X-Men 97 Season 2, Mother Askani displays the same level of mastery as she communicates telepathically across enormous distances, senses disruption in the timeline, shares information directly into the minds of the X-Men, and acts as the psychic guide for the team's mission against Apocalypse. Because of her telepathic abilities, she can also transfer both her mind and powers into other host bodies if her own physical body was somehow destroyed. Mother Askani can even increase the speed of synapses in the brain, which allows her to increase another's power to incredible level with a temporary effect. To add on that, she can create telepathic illusion to make herself seem to be invisible, look like someone else, or make others experience events that are not truly happening. She also has the ability to induce temporary mental or physical paralysis, while also being able to erase any awareness of particular memories or cause total amnesia. Mother Askani is powerful enough to project psionic force bolts which have no physical effect, but which can affect a victim's mind so as to cause the victim a considerable amount of pain or render them unconscious by turning them brain dead. Rachel can even use her telepathy to read the past from objects, people, and environments. She can also sense the presence of another superhuman mutant within a small but undefined radius of herself by perceiving the distinctive mental radiations emitted by the said being. Lastly, Mother Askani has projected her astral form from her body onto astral planes or the physical planes. In the physical plane, she can only travel in astral form over short distances. But in astral plane, she can mentally create psionic objects and manipulate the aspects of her environment. She can even communicate with others astrally through her own will or through contact with the thoughts and memories of others. Cool, right? She has also extremely powerful telekinesis. Like Jean Grey, Mother Askani also has super powerful telekinetic abilities. She can lift enormous objects, fly by surrounding herself with psychic force, create invisible barriers, and generate powerful telekinetic blasts capable of throwing opponents across great distance. Unlike many telekinetics, Rachel's control is incredibly refined as she can manipulate tiny objects with surgical precision while simultaneously moving massive structure. During combat, she often combines her telepathic and telekinetic powers to predict an opponent's movement while restraining them physically. Throughout various Cable and Phoenix stories, Rachel used telekinesis to protect Clan Askani refugees from Apocalypse armies by holding collapsing structures together and battling enemies whose physical strength far exceeded her own. Rather than relying solely on brute force, she layered telekinetic shields around herself and her allies, thus making it extremely difficult for them to overwhelm her. Chronoskimming is Mother Askani's standout ability. Perhaps Mother Askani's most unique ability is chronoskimming, which is the power to send her awareness, consciousness, or soul through time. It could even be the past or future version of herself, or possibly their ancestors or descendants. She can also use this ability to observe the timeline. But she also needs to use her psychometry in conjunction to anchor herself to particular events and people instead of sifting through the entire timeline. Unlike Cable's technology, or bishop's temporal jump. Chronoskimming is basically a psychic ability, and Rachel can project her own consciousness or someone else's across the time stream without physically moving their body. This allows individuals to influence the past while preserving the integrity of the timeline. Chronoskimming eventually becomes one of the defining powers of Clan Askani, as Rachel teaches this discipline to her followers, who use it to monitor history and ensure all the key events are unfolding correctly. In fact, Mother Askani herself can perceive alternate futures, identify timeline divergences, and recognize temporal anomalies that ordinary telepaths cannot detect. The best comic example will always remain in Days of Future Past, where Rachel sends Kitty Pryde's mind into her teenage body because without chronoskimming, the Sentinel future could never have been challenged because no one possessed a way to alter history itself. Rachel has also displayed the ability to manipulate the time stream for a variety of purposes and effects, such as freely sending minds or physically traveling through time or traveling into other dimensions and shielding herself and others from changes in the timeline. She can also use her temporal powers to pull Phoenix fire from the multiverse powerful enough to destroy a Fury. In fact, the unconscious emanation of a fourth-dimensional pulse, which create a chrono shield, protects her from the changes in the timeline. She is also a multiversal anomaly, which means Rachel or Mother Askani has no alternate version in other timelines. In X-Men 97-2, Mother Askani repeatedly demonstrates an awareness of branching timelines and fixed historical events. She understands how changes in the past ripple across the future and guides the X-Men accordingly. While the show has not depicted comic book application of chronoskimming, her role as a temporal guardian is clearly adapted from this aspect of the comics. Her Phoenix Force connection is what allows her to live on. Although Mother Askani is not permanently bonded to the Phoenix Force, Rachel has one of the strongest relationships with the cosmic entity outside Jean Grey herself. When Rachel wielded the Phoenix, her already extraordinary powers expanded to a cosmic scale. She could manipulate matter and energy, survive in a deep space, unleash planet-level energy blasts, access the memories and knowledge stored within the Phoenix Force. Even after no longer serving as its primary host, traces of that connection continued to influence her psychic abilities. This lingering bond explains why Rachel often demonstrates psychic feats beyond those of ordinary telepaths. The Phoenix amplified her perception, thus allowing her to sense disturbances across dimension and timelines rather than merely reading thoughts. The best example would be when Rachel was freed from Rory, aka Ahab's Hound programming. After Kit Stark removed the technological nanites and Sage and Bloody Bess assisted psychically, it was ultimately the Phoenix that shattered Ahab's remaining mental conditioning, restoring Rachel's identity completely. Not just that, she is also a powerful empath, so she is also able to sense, interpret, and manipulate the emotions, sensations, and feelings of other sentient beings to varying degrees. Her empathy extends beyond organic beings, enabling her to connect with sentient across cosmic forces and psychic constructs. That is also how she has calmed enraged beings, like the Phoenix Force, resisted powerful mental manipulation through sheer emotional resilience, and established deep psychic bonds that transcend space and time. Mother Askani is pretty good at mental restoration and timeline awareness. So, Mother Askani is also one of the Marvel's finest psychic healers, as she can repair damaged minds, remove implanted memories, reverse brainwashing, and stabilize fractured personalities. This goes far beyond reading thoughts, as it involves rebuilding the structure of another person's consciousness. The Askani regularly relied on Rachel to heal victims of Apocalypse's experiments, restore traumatized mutants, and undo psychic manipulation inflicted by enemies. Because Apocalypse frequently employed genetic tampering and mental conditioning, this ability became one of the clan's greatest assets. In fact, Rachel's liberation from Ahab's programming could also be considered as another major example. So, even after years of physical conditioning, Mother Askani's combined psychic expertise and Phoenix connection allowed her true personality to emerge again. Plus, Mother Askani experiences time differently from ordinary human because rather than seeing only one future, she can perceive branching possibilities, identify paradoxes, and recognize when someone or something does not belong in a particular era. This makes her invaluable whenever Kang, Apocalypse, Strife, Cable, or other time travelers threaten the course of history. The clan Askani exists largely to preserve what they call the sacred timeline, thus preventing catastrophic changes while ensuring that history still reaches the point where Apocalypse can ultimately be defeated. Rachel serves as their spiritual leader to them because her perceptions of time allows her to understand which events must occur and which can safely be altered. This role is reflected in X-Men 97, where Mother Askani repeatedly emphasized that changing history recklessly can destroy the future itself. I don't know if you noticed, but her actions are guided by preserving the proper flow of time rather than simply winning individual battles. That is why she motivated a young Nathan to send his parent back in time so he can come into his own destiny.
Our mission is complete, but Nathan's is not.
Well, that brings us to the very end of this video. Mother Askani truly stands among Marvel's psychic being. While she may not consistently wield the full cosmic might of the Phoenix Force, her combination of Omega-level telepathy, immense telekinesis, chronoskimming, psychic healing, timeline perception, and centuries of experience make her one of the most powerful godlike mutants ever created. In the comics, we see how these abilities allow her to found the clan Askani, raise Cable to challenge Apocalypse, free herself from Ahab's influence, and preserve the time stream. But in the X-Men 97 show, only the same core abilities are adapted into her role as a temporal guardian and psychic mentor who is guiding the X-Men through a war that spans centuries. I think we will see her a lot in the future of the show, but I'm excited to see how animated series builds up her storyline going forward. What are your thoughts and theories about Mother Askani's character? Let us know in the comment box below.